Good evening, everybody. I'm Barb Maynard, and I'm proud to have produced, along with Cookie Lamel, In Their Own Words. Juvenile justice reform is one of the hottest topics in America today, and no piece of the puzzle is less understood than the work of the professional probation officers who supervise and rehabilitate kids who have lost their way. In Their Own Words, an original documentary short, features former probation clients who reflect upon how their probation officers helped to change their lives. The film is being presented tonight by the Coalition of Probation Unions, who are together these professional organizations who are pulling back the veil from one of the least understood yet most critical aspects of the restorative justice system to portray the true image of probation officers to reduce the stigma around them in the community. After the film, we will have a panel discussion and an opportunity to ask questions of the panel. Please put those questions into the chat. Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to the three union presidents who collectively have more than 100 years of experience in the LA County Probation Department. And I know, because I've consulted with them all for more than 25 years, that they share a deep passion for restorative justice and for making probation a true alternative to incarceration. First, I'd like to introduce Hans Liang, Deputy Probation Officer 2, and President of the LA County Probation Officers Union, AFSCME Local 685, and a 23-year veteran of the Probation Department. Hans.
Thanks, Barbara, and thank you all for taking the time to attend tonight. I think we're all very excited for this release. The three unions, as Barbara had indicated, along with Jim and Deborah, had worked together to bring this forward. So, just a real quick background. I'm a 23-year veteran of the department. I've worked numerous assignments from field, juvenile, training, and administration as well. And I serve as the president of Local 685, representing over 3,400 members here in LA County. And just very excited for everyone to have an opportunity to watch tonight. So thank you.
Great. Next, I'd like to introduce Jim Shane Garth, who is a supervising deputy probation officer and president of the SDPO's union, SEIU Local 721, with 44 years on the department. Jim.
Thank you, Barb. And I want to thank everybody that is joining us this evening for this viewing. It is very special. It was June 6, 1977, that I started my career with probation, and my first assignment was Dorothy Kirby Center. It is a pleasure tonight to look back and see through the eyes of the kids, now adults, as to how they were impacted by their probation experience. I look forward to this viewing.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce you to Deborah Lares, who's a probation manager, president of the Probation Managers Association, AFSCME Local 1967, and a 35-year veteran of the LA County Probation Department. Deborah.
Good evening. And I also would like to thank all of you for taking this time to learn more about and hear more about the heartfelt experiences of our youth who have been in the probation department during very tenuous times in their lives. So, and in hearing it in their own words, I've spent a good deal of my career in the juvenile halls and the camps, now in the field, but worked side by side with many of our youth. And so this is very special and very heartfelt for me as well. Thank you for being with us.
I was detained at the age of 13 years old,
where I was convicted of armed robbery.
I ended up committing crimes.
And I followed my sister a lot. So we started by like petty crimes like stealing.
I would take things from Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, not really to use, but to sell, to make money, to go grocery shopping.
Kind of liked the gang lifestyle.
My sister and I were involved in a domestic violence situation, and I was charged with second-degree murder.
And then it started getting into like stealing cars and robbing.
And facing 25 years to life.
This department here began over 100 years ago in Los Angeles County. It's got a long history.
Probation officers are not armed.
We're not police officers.
Our authority comes from the courts. We are the liaison between the courts, between the families, between, if we're talking juvenile cases with youth, the schools, and treatment providers. So we are kind of the glue that holds that all together.
I grew up in Aliso Pico housing projects, which were known for the most concentrated of gangs. It was tough for a young man to try to find his way, and especially when you don't have that father figure.
I didn't have a very stable household. I was the oldest of 3 sisters, and I feel like it was important for me to make sure that I took care of them when my mom couldn't. Around that time, it was Christmas, and I knew my mom couldn't do it. So we went to the Old Navy, and we got everything we wanted. We put it in bags, and I had the bright idea of taking matches and lighting some pajamas on fire. Well, what it did was it was a distraction to get people to look over at someone else instead of us, and we would walk out. We ended up getting caught for that.
We have to keep them safe. The community expects us to keep the community safe. And then we also have to follow the orders from the court.
I say to them when I'm working with them, I say, you know what, my job is to get you off probation as fast as possible. And they get really excited, right? And I said, but you know what, I can't do it for you, right? And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, look at your conditions here. You got to go to school every day, right? And then, oh, you can't hang out with this person, and you got to be home at this time. Like, if you can do all these things consistently over a period of time, then I write reports to the court.
We don't take a referee mentality. We take more of a guardian mindset.
So once you're on probation, they kind of like, they have you. Then, you know, if they feel like the household isn't, up to par, then they might put you, maybe in a group home.
And then I was placed in Dorothy Kirby Placement Center.
Well, when I first got to Kirby, of course, I got in there a little bit, rough and stuff, still rough and tough, trying to, from the streets and stuff.
I didn't want to open up to anybody. I just was kind of shut down.
We were in cottages. We were like 10 to a cottage. So you start getting a relationship with your cottage sisters or brothers in the facility. And so we got close, and then things started changing. And then Mr. Shabazz came around, and he kind of changed everything for us.
There was a man named Mr. Shabazz, and he was like a social worker or a probation officer that he would come and see us on a regular basis.
I believe I met Mr. Rahman Mohammed Shabazz at the age of 16 at the Dorothy Kirby Center in Los Angeles.
We wear a lot of hats around here. Monday I might be a coach. Tuesday I might be a counselor. Wednesday I might be a teacher.
I was a LA Unified school bus driver for about 22 years. And during that time I was also a youth pastor. And I believe those 2 positions prepared me for probation.
I'm blessed beyond measure to have had Mr. Shabazz. He was more than a probation officer. He was more than a therapist. He was more than a life coach. He was more than a friend. Someone asked me the other day who he is, and I thought about it, and I said, he's the person who should have been my dad.
My responsibilities consist of supervising detained youth while they're going through their court process. We want to make sure that the youth is receiving their schooling, their medical care, and their mental health care, but also ensuring that they're participating, encourage them to participate in the services that are inside the facility and even outside the facility while they're in the community.
I usually had my family support, which was odd, but because I was so rebellious at the time, it was hard for them to tame me. But usually when I would get in structure, I would work my program.
One thing I did have within me, though, that I discovered was the gift of art.
Most probation officers audition money out of their pockets for the kids. It's like, I don't know how much money I spent when I was in camp on getting kids, I'm going to do this for my kids. I'm going to do that for my kids. And we call them our kids. And so that's one of the things that people don't know.
When I was in Camp McNear, I was doing a year. I remember out of all probation officers, Dennis Callwood, I stood out to him because I would doodle a lot. and I would draw, doodle, make greeting cards. And then he's like, Deborah, you're a great artist. And I go, oh, thank you, Mr. Callwood. He goes, what if I were to bring you art supplies? Would you draw? I said, absolutely. And he brought out all these markers. And then he was like, go ahead, express yourself. And then he started to guide me, not knowing that he was an artist himself. I just knew he was the DPO who saw me for my gift, gave me the tools and another way to be able to express myself.
My last stop was a place called Dorothy Kirby Center. And that's where I met the music teacher there. And basically when you go there, they assess you to see what kind of things you like what are you good at. And I always was into music and I sang. So she started to kind of take me under her wing. She helped me get into a school that shortened my sentence at Dorothy Kirby. So because I was accepted into this school, they allowed me to basically be released. And it was super hard to get used to because the schedule was very rigorous. It was like 7:45 classes and you didn't get out of school till about 4:45. So this particular school made it to where it was hard for me to misbehave because I had so many responsibilities. And I had so many things on the line at the time. I was tired of messing up.
Well, now I'm currently in school now. I'm going for my psychology degree, but my main goals and concerns are still to work with at-risk youth. I'm a certified counselor.
I went back to school. I became a state certified drug counselor by the Board of California. And by then I did 10 years as the director of substance abuse services and programming at Homeboy Industries. Although I wanted more, and I said, how can I take my gift of art, the substance abuse, trauma-informed lens, my clinical approach, and weave some sense of program that is going to also be beneficial to the people that we serve, in this case, the gang-involved population. And that's when Arts for Healing and Transformation came to light. Probation was willing, and they were open. And then I recognized that they felt that it is important to have folks with lived experience, culturally relevant, to provide these services. So now there's a shift. Actually, you're welcome. We need you, and I need you, probation, to help us come together to build that village that we so talk about, that every kid needs in order to find his way. And ever since I've been working in the camps and probation, I have made a name for myself in a way, and I have made an impact, and mainly working alongside probation, and I need them as much as they need me. Together we can make the world a safer place.
There were days I went home and I would just be near tears, and it was hard to sleep sometimes because you thought about this kid or that kid.
Mr. Shabazz knew that my mom hadn't been in my life for a few years, and he knew that that bothered me. And one day my mom showed up at Dorothy Kirby Center. It wasn't the right visiting day, it wasn't the right visiting hours, and Mr. Shabazz caught word of that, and he allowed my mom to have a visit with me. And that meant a lot to me. That meant a lot to me. It's like it shed some light on me. It was like, man, you know what? Things can turn around. I missed my mom a lot, whether she was on drugs or not. In that day that Mr. Shabazz allowed my mom to come in when it wasn't even visiting hours or visiting days. When he allowed that, it's like my heart shined.
Many years, I'd ask them and others would ask them,
hey, well, what do you want to do when you get older, so we can try to encourage them into whatever academic or whatever life skill path that they want to choose?
You'll hear different answers. The most common answer: to be a probation officer.
Most of these kids say they want to be us.
You can speculate what the reasoning is behind it.
I smile because I said, all right, that means we're doing something right.
You know, I've always done hair. That's pretty much been the icebreaker for like any type of relationship that I had when I was there.
I graduated from the high school in juvenile hall, and I never went back because I had a trade.
We basically started working here about, I'm gonna say 8 or 9 years ago. What happened was the previous owner for this building was in the middle of selling. She offered it to us, and then we just kind of took over.
We own our own salon. We're outstanding citizens. We travel. We've been out of the country. Things that we never thought we would do, we have done. I give a lot of credit to the probation department because they had a lot of people there that cared.
Right now, we're standing up to educate people on who we are and what we do, because it's quite clear that either the public doesn't know, right? Obviously, the public that knows, unfortunately, are the people that get arrested and get put on probation, and when we have to supervise and help them through their navigate, they're the people that know what we do. But the rest of the population that's never been arrested or never been on probation, they don't know what we do.
I run a nonprofit. I've been doing that for 9.5 years, assisting single moms and grandparents that are raising their grandchildren that are low income. And I believe that that has something to do with some of the people that have crossed my path in life. And I believe that Mr. Shabazz was one of those people.
About a 120-year-old Victorian house. It's 4,000 square feet. And Mr. Shabazz is in every inch of it. He's in every decision that I make, every strength that I hold, every firm belief that I hold. He walked me down the aisle when I got married. He shaped who I am as a person. Mr. Shabazz was the first example of a human being who walked upright and clean in the light of day, and who honestly loved God and showed it in his reverence for me and the way he engaged with me and my peers, the way he interacted with us. I am one of many who will speak volumes about the relationship, and it would not have happened without Dorothy Kirby. It wouldn't have happened without the probation department and their presence.
We collaborated with community-based agencies that created a digital music program, and we got these kids to, they all wanted to be rap stars, right? So we said, okay, we're going to teach you how to write lyrics, and we would give assignments like, tell us about who you are, right? Most of the times, kids want to be away from their probation officers, okay? But after we started doing this program, the 3 kids that were on my caseload came to me and they said, hey, can we bring some more people to this program? So at that point, you figure, we've got something here, because you have probation kids that are bringing their criminal, if you will, involved friends to be involved in this program, because it's something that they normally would not have an opportunity any other place to do this, right? Like that. So I would have a digital audio tape recorder, bring it in, we would have a basic beat, they would have on their headphones, and then we would record their vocals, right? And then I would bring the vocals back and put it down on tracks and then give it to them.
Get up, it's time to get moving. Need to commit to always improving. Life we know can always get better. With vision and belief we can sever the ties of fear that hold us back and keep us from being ready to attack our problems and all our insecurities. Time to elevate belief in our abilities. Get up, fight gravity. Fight gravity. Get up, fight gravity. Shape your reality. Get up, fight gravity. Fight gravity. Get up, fight gravity. Shape your reality. No one knows what tomorrow will bring, and we can only be sure of one thing, that someday it will all come to an ending. Ask yourself, are you living or pretending? Don't be the one who gets left behind. Act now by your own design. Your life is yours, don't let it slip by. Face forward and keep your head high. Get up, fight gravity. Take control, shape reality. Don't give in to mediocrity. Fight gravity. Get up, fight gravity. Take control, shape reality. Don't give in to mediocrity. Fight gravity, fight gravity.
Before we start talking to some of the panelists, I'd like to introduce Jeff Delman, who's the filmmaker that we worked with very, very closely on this. And it's kind of an incredible story. Originally, we just brought him on to help write the script and just talk to all the folks and try to come up with sort of a story for this. But he just fell in love with everybody he was talking to in this story. And long story short, he ended up being the one to make this film, and nobody could have done this better than Jeff. And so, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and say a few words?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I approached this, like most people and the people that I've shown the film to since we finished it, knew very little about, the probation department and what everyone does. And we just know what we see on TV, which is, certainly not very flattering. And I was pretty blown away by the people I spoke with, both the officers and the upper staff and the former probationers. And they were just, dynamic people that showed, I think, demonstrated an aspect of the criminal justice system that, most people don't know anything about. And as I was doing background to interview people for the piece, to write some kind of script, and as I approached it, I really didn't know what I was going to do. But it became very clear that there was a story here, and the story of all the people I interviewed was, part of one larger story. So it just made sense to let people, speak for themselves and talk about their experiences and what they do and their expertise and the little tricks they've learned along the way, and then intercut it to create a full experience, or at least a glimpse of a full experience. The first cut of this film came in at around 45 minutes, and we needed 10. So there's a lot, unfortunately, that ended up the cutting room floor, a lot of it really good. But, I think I was able to at least create an impression of both sides of the process and how it works, and how it really does take people that, very often have troubling beginnings, and let them step into who they really and truly are. I think, the former probationers I thought were just, that I spoke with, blew me away with their ability to reflect on what they've done and where they're going, and their sense of their altitude over the whole experience. So, it was my pleasure to present this to everyone.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and you were an absolute pleasure to work with. So thank you for that.
And
thank you. I appreciate that. And she's not on the panel here, but I do want to give a special shout out to Cookie Lamel from Ask Me 685, who busted her butt day in and day out, helping to wrangle people and helping to shape this story. She's a staff member at the union, but boy, does she care deeply about the work that you all do. So she's not on here, but she deserves a big shout out. So good stuff. I'd like to now ask Myshika Ross to talk a little bit. You just met her in the film, and you heard a little bit, but as Jeff said, there was a lot that ended up on the cutting room floor. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you, Myshika, and about your story, and about what people didn't actually hear in that film, and I'll have some of the probation officers react to that. So the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this documentary. It really meant a lot to me. A few things that came to my mind as I watched the video, even as you said, I've watched the video several times as well. But even though I've watched it several times, I continue to get choked up and get emotional, because I start remembering where I was at that point in time in my life. Another thought that came to me was a quote that Mr. Shabazz would always tell us. And the quote was, "If you fail to plan, you plan to fail." And when I tell you, it seemed like every time he would come in and speak with us, that was what he would say often. As I became an adult, I better understood what that was about, what it meant. It stuck to me. And that's just one of the things that I so appreciate about Mr. Shabazz. My father passed away 1 year after I was released from Dorothy Kirby. When I tell you Mr. Shabazz and his family was a support, he didn't have to be there. I was out of the, Dorothy Kirby and living my life and moving on. He could have said, well, she's not in this, part of Dorothy Kirby anymore. I don't have to be there. My job is done. But he supported me in that way. He was an emotional support. His family was there. He had a family of his own. He didn't have to do that. And another thing also too, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but when I was in Dorothy Kirby, being detained at the time of Dorothy Kirby, Mr. Shabazz lost his son. And when I tell you that man never skipped a beat and showed up for us in that cottage, I never knew that until some time had passed. But he still showed up for us. And that takes a lot to do. You have, things going on at home and you lose a child and you're going to show up for somebody else's child. That takes a lot. And I appreciate that. He's still in my life to this day. I had an opportunity to speak at Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall before it closed. And that was one of the things I was praying for and hoping for, because I wanted to go and give back to allow those girls to see, hey, if I can change my life around, you can too. And my goal was, if I could reach one person, one youth at Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, then my job was done. But that was just the biggest opportunity for me. It touched my heart. I'm glad I was able to do that. I was able to visit Dorothy Kirby and speak to some of the cottage girls there. I was also able to speak at Central Juvenile Hall. I was also detained there, but most of my my time doing Juvenile Hall was in Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall. And during that time, I didn't have any problems with the staff. I programmed well, and I was just thankful for that time, because you're with the staff the most. Yes, you have your visits, but those staff members, probation, they become, like the gentleman said earlier, you wear different hats, and they're listeners. They're pouring into you, and they're sharing, they're encouraging you. And that was another thing that Mr. Shabazz and Dr. Brody offered to me while I was in Dorothy Kirby Placement Center. Those are some of the things that I continue to hold on to. I've also talked to Dr. Brody years ago and kept in contact with him and just told him, thank you. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for not giving up on me when I had the worst attitude, when I didn't know who I was, and I was this broken little girl, didn't know which way to go and how to deal with life. They were there to speak, encouraging things and to let me know, hey, I see you. You are somebody, and you can change, and your life can be different after this. And I appreciated them for those words, and I held on to those things. And I'd like to share this book. It's called 25 Years to Life. I wrote this book and it's about my life. And I've gone to schools and I've used that book to say, hey, you know what? You can turn things around. You don't have to continue in that path. And because Dr. Brody and Mr. Shabazz, because they poured into me, I was able to pay it forward and pour into someone else, whether it was 10 minutes or 30 minutes. I was able to pay it forward because they took the time to pour into me. And that was a domino effect, I believe, because those people came into my life and I said, hey, you know what? Let me be a light as well. I may never know, the people that I've encouraged or given hope to. And that's fine, but as long as they've taken something and to turn their lives around, it means a lot to me. And also with my organization, 9.5 years, I became a single mom. And when I was a single mom, Mr. Shabazz was there. He cheered me on. Hey, you can get up and dust yourself off and keep moving forward. He didn't have to do it. That's far few in between. When you find people that really genuinely care about you. And I feel because their jobs were in place and those people were in place, they helped me become the woman that I am today. They had a piece in my journey. Without them being in Dorothy Kirby, and say, for example, if there were no probation officers, I don't know what that would look like. I don't think that would look well at all, because those people you're with day in and day out. When I cried at Los Padrinos, there was a staff member there. They didn't have to listen, but they did. Same thing for Dorothy Kirby. They were there. And that means so much. 5 minutes out of the day before you leave and you impart something so encouraging, you're going home to your family. That's what some things I'm like, hey, Mr. Shabazz, you're saying that, but you're going home. Dr. Brody, you're saying that, but you're going home. But I felt comfortable. I felt safe, if that makes sense, knowing that I had somebody there in that facility that cared about my well-being. When you have people that are in these facilities and you have these people that, are detainees that are there, and they know that Deborah care about them. Hey, Miss Deborah cares about me. I can go to her and talk to her. That helps lighten the load. You guys do become our family. We didn't know it was going to happen, but it was just like, thank you. Thank you for being on the journey. Thank you for staying. Thank you for staying the course. And thank you for the purpose. 44 years, he's been in the department. I was 1 year old. Like, you have to love the job. You have to love something about what you do. That's a long time. So thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for caring about us. Today, I said, you know what? I have an opportunity not to be just an advocate for myself, but to also be an advocate and be a voice for other people that are not here. And people do need to see and hear about the probation department, because we are the ones, when we are incarcerated, we see it, but nobody else sees it. And I just think this is, in their own words, is awesome. And I've gotten feedback from a probation officer, and she said, oh my goodness, thank you for sharing this video, because people don't see what we do. So that was great to hear. And I'm thankful for this opportunity. I'm thankful for the probation officers. I'm thankful for the department. Thank you that you continue to show up and be there and take kids on that you didn't know you were going to have. I want to say that you are appreciated. And I am so thankful that Mr. Shabazz and Dr. Brody saw me. They didn't see, oh, well, you know what? She got in trouble, and that's what landed her here. They saw me as a person, and that means so much. And I told them, thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing my potential and who I am as a person and where I could go in life and who I can be, because I do have a purpose. Yes, that's part of my journey, but I have a purpose. And I'm glad that they were a part of my journey. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for this opportunity. It means so much to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such powerful words, Mashika, and for all that you're doing in life. And as a single mother and the daughter of an alcoholic who passed away, I feel your pain. And I think we all have similar stories in some way connect in those threads. So thank you for being here. It takes a lot of courage, and that's really incredible. I'd love to bring up Eric Walton. Eric is a senior detention services officer currently working at Barry J. Nydorf. And it's really incredible. He is here. He was elected by his coworkers to represent their voices at AFSCME Local 685, and is a deep man of faith and an incredible human being.
It's a great opportunity to be a part of this great project.
but it's also great to be able to hear Ms. Ross be able to give her testimony as to her experience of being in Dorothy Kirby Center, but hearing her be able to articulate her experience with individuals who took on the responsibility to make sure that they just didn't treat her as if she was actually someone who was not going to succeed, but actually wanted to be able to pour into her life, but also now to be able to hear her be able to pour back into others, to take her experience and be able to flip that and not basically just give up, but be able to believe in herself and be able to take all what she was able to experience at Dorothy Kirby and then move forward in life and do excellent things. This is one of the things this is what we work for. This is the thing that, just like every teacher who's working with a young person who's struggling with math and English, and then finally their student is able to actually get it. They're able to effectively work out the math problems, who are effectively able to write out their papers or their essays. But when we are able to see many of the young people that we work with be able to say, now I got it. I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, I made this mistake. I'm going to move forward and change my life. That is what motivates us to be able to go back out there and do it again and be able to see each young person and have that relationship with them. I think one of the things that Mr. Shabazz, one of the things that, was what was one of the true assets of him, to be able to hear his story from his young ladies that he supervised, is that one, he was in tune to their needs, and you have to be a part of their life. You have to be able to sit down with your young people that you're responsible for, to be able to talk with them, interact with them, talk about life, joke with them, coach them in sports, coach them in how they're supposed to participate in all their daily programming. And then, when these moments, like when Maishika's mom came up to the facility, when you're in tune with the young person, automatically, hey, don't turn this mother away. Give her this opportunity to be able to have a sit down and just have a conversation with her daughter. And, just utilize that moment and say, you know what? Yeah, I know I could turn her mom away. It's not regular visiting hours, but I know in my heart how this is going to be able to touch this young lady, because I have a relationship with her. She's not just another young lady that's coming in and out of this facility. She's a young lady who needs her mother. She's a young lady who needs that connection to be able to have those talks with her mom. And so I think because of that relationship, because officers are in tune with their young people that they have to supervise, it's just one of those moments that you capitalize off of and say, no, I'm not just going to let this opportunity pass by, but I'm going to capitalize off of it and be able to have this young lady be able to meet with her mom. And then you really be able to see the results of what being in tune with your young people is all about. And you wait for those moments to come up, so that way you can capitalize off it and pour into those young people's lives. So that way, when they move forward, it continuously gives them something to fight for and not give up and believe in themselves and be successful as they get older, because they're not going to be there for a long time. For them in that moment, it may seem like it's moving slow, but, sometimes young people are with us like 6 months, maybe a year, but after that, they have a tendency to move on, and you want to be able to give them the most while they're there.
It's been quite an experience, and it really, through the course of it, really grabbed my heart. When I started working with the younger kids, and they were the funniest kids, but they just break your heart. My favorite groups were them and the girls, because the girls were it was just sad. Even in that environment, it seemed like we had to fight for all the things for them. We need more pants. We need more this. We need more that. I remember a camp manager that got our supplies for us in camp. He said, I've never worked any place where I had to order 3 different kinds of hair gels for girls. I said, well, you know what? We make them comb their hair, and we have a certain way we want them to look, and they all have different hairs, and that's what we're going to have. So It was very, very interesting for me, and it tugged at my heartstrings a lot. And as I said, I'd go home some nights and I'd just be so sad, really, really sad that things were like they were for some of these kids. And I have to say, the majority of our staff really cared about them, worked hard for them. We had a lot of good times and a lot of fun times and a lot of sad times. But as hard as this career has been, I can't say I would ever change it if I could.
Yeah, and I'm right here next to my Sheikah, and she told a wonderful story. And she has grown so much. And I'm so happy that she shared. Personally, I didn't know Mr. Shabazz, but I think I know of him, and I know him through others in this department, because we have a lot of good people working for us. And to see him walk you down the aisle at your wedding, that was just absolutely amazing. And I was able to see Mr. Callwood, and I worked with him from 2001 to 2002 up at Challenger Memorial Youth Center. And yes, he was a professional photographer, and he shared his love of arts with the kids, as we can see through this video, how that carried over into another young man's life who is now sharing that with other kids in the community. It's just absolutely amazing. And like I say, I am moved by the work of others, and I'm glad to be in their company. I thank you.
So I'd like Cookie to say a few words now. She was the co-producer of this film. As I mentioned at the beginning, she just popped in as a panelist, so we're able to hear from her. And I think it's important to mention that Cookie and I are the two non-probation staff. So we're the support team behind all three of these unions. And it's been an incredible honor to work with her, because she just lives and breathes and shares, just loves the work that you all do and loves the ability to help people like my Sheikah. And so Cookie, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I wanted to mention, I just feel that probation officers have such a incredibly unique set of skills, which is what I noticed when I first started working here. Very much such as the young lady who explained how wild she was at first. And then she said, but he knew I liked to sing. So they got me involved in the music department, and I was so busy, I couldn't do anything else. Who else would notice that? Oh, this girl has to really be kept busy because she's all over the place otherwise. And those are the things that you notice. They're very subtle, but probation officers know a lot. And that's why I'm actually just so very happy to be a part of this project, to let other people understand and know who probation officers are, and how they really help shape the Los Angeles County community.
I hope everyone, first of all, thank you everyone for attending. I want to thank Jeff and Cookie and Barbara as well for all their hard work, and also for Jim and Deborah's support on this project as well. It's interesting. I think that, with my Sheikah's story, how Mr. Shabazz was like a father. I think for probation officers, part of that, it may be as a role of the father for me. When I was working with the youth, I like to be the older brother. And, we can go get involved in some things that maybe, are a little bit risky per se, maybe in their minds, but, I was always there to draw the line. But with the music and getting the kids together, I think that oftentimes, if you think about our society, and a lot of times young people, when if their situation or circumstances are difficult, when they look around, they're looking to see who these models are, that they can, who do they look up to? Who is the standard for how I should be? And I think, like, for example, with my Sheikah and the other people with Shabazz, the thing about light, the thing about, the term about a person of light, clean in the day, right? It's it's very it's very difficult to kind of pin it down per se, but I think that in terms of the spirit of it all, we all have the same heart, but the way that we communicate may be a little bit different. Some people may communicate like a father, some people may communicate like a brother, you know, some may communicate like a mentor. But at the end of the day, we're there to provide support, and then also for the young people to look up and say, hey, you can be like me too, and I'm pretty cool as well. So again, to be models for those young people in our community, you know, because oftentimes we know that in certain environments, the models that they get are not ones that we would want to support them in following those particular paths. So by providing the models, by providing the care and support, I think that, you know, we really, all of us here as probation officers know the work that we do. And Maishika, thank you for being on. You also know the work that we do. And I'm rambling on, but you know, I think I just want to thank everybody. I think that this is just the beginning of this type of medium that we're doing to express ourselves and to spread knowledge to everybody. And I think that we will be, you know, quickly at work to do more like this in order to get an accurate picture of who we are out to the public.